all set. Finance Committee, do you have a quorum?
No, I think for the record, we're just here for information.
All right.
So I'm going to start everybody off because we're going to hit the rewind button and go back in history a little bit. My recollection kind of works like this. The Building Facilities Committee did a tour that's well documented. There's a video of the old highway barn where we're working out of now. And that tour was largely the result of the air quality reports that we got that forced us to put a trailer outside to be in compliance with OSHA. So we've got to get our workers out of that space because the air inside the building is not safe to breathe over a prolonged period of time. So the Building Facilities Committee did this tour, and recommendations and thoughts from that tour were sent up to the Select Board. The Select Board formed a subcommittee with Mike Fitzpatrick assigned to that subcommittee, and then Adam Furno and myself and a couple other folks. It's not a formal subcommittee, it's not a public body, it's an advisory group, and our job was to corral the best available information we could come up with to arrive at a proposal for a highway bond. So we went through a long period of time where Weston and Sampson did a feasibility study that we paid for that considered not only several sites, but using any one of those several sites for more than one purpose, including fire station and police station in the future. One of the things that's very important for folks to realize is this is a public procurement and the law must be followed. It's Chapter 30B, Section 16. So if you don't have town property or a unique property that you can do findings of fact and file evidence to prove that the property is unique and therefore is eligible for direct negotiation, it must go out to bid. And if it goes out to bid, you don't necessarily have a choice in the end as to where you're going to locate your facility, what road it's going to be on, and all the rest. If you have a decision rule that says you're going to go with the lowest price, then you're pretty much stuck with the lowest price. Most people wouldn't do it that way. They would do it with a RFP style score sheet, but still the property that came up with the highest and best score would be the quote-unquote best value, and therefore would be the property where you locate your new building, whether or not it was the ideal location. That would only be one factor that you could take into consideration to score. So when we did the feasibility study, we narrowed it to publicly owned town property or this one unique property here, which was close enough to our existing facility, has three-phase power and other attributes, including the existing home, that would contribute, not this one, the one that's beyond it, that would contribute to the reduction of the cost of the project to the taxpayer. That was the logic behind putting 4 or 5 of these properties into the feasibility study. We ruled out almost all of the town-held property for one simple reason. The complexities of environmental compliance on all of our properties would be extremely challenging because there are wetlands and wetland crossings on almost every significant town property that we looked at. So if you look at Buff Therion's old dump behind the soccer field and the old Veterans Place, that's a crossing over a very significant wetland complex, and we did not feel that we had enough confidence in what Buff may have buried or not buried in that facility to proceed with that. Because once you start digging, you find something, you are responsible to do something with it. So why not just leave it under grass and trees? The same for the Buckeye property that the town bought. There's a couple of complexities there. One is the whole purpose of buying that property was to leave it as open space to protect public drinking water supply wells that are nearby. But you don't have to walk too far into the woods beyond the edge of the field there to see that there's a very large wetland complex back there too, with, at that point, the brook runs real strong and deep pretty much year round. The existing highway property is not big enough for the size of facility we're contemplating, along with all the outbuildings. So those 3 sites were largely ruled out, and we started to really focus a good deal more on this one because of the unique characteristics I already identified, but also the location of this property in the middle of town. Any number of folks can come up with any number of contrary proposals, but just make sure you filter them through a couple of considerations. Commercially zoned property on the main road is suitable for development, for economic development and private business, to build the tax base of the town. So we should not be taking prime real estate on the main road and putting public buildings on it that won't be taxed and won't generate any economic activity for the town. So that was this consideration set that went into it. Now, where are we with due diligence on this property? First of all, we're using what's called a friendly taking process. That the first step will be at town meeting in a couple weeks, where the owner of the property has agreed to a consideration, a pro tanto price for these 2 parcels. But the town is going to follow the legal process for eminent domain in order to extinguish all claims against title and give the town title free and clear forever. I will not pull any punches. That was the result of rumors I heard that somebody was going to try to cloud this title. I don't give a rat's patoot. I'll speak right into the camera. I don't give a rat's patoot what dispute any private party is having internal to their family or ex-family members. The business of the town shouldn't be held in check because there is a quote-unquote undocumented shadow purchaser back in the whatever 1950s. Baloney. This property has clean title, but as you all know, actions to cloud title can take many years to clean up, and the expense of title attorney can be pretty considerable. So that's not what we're doing. We're doing eminent domain. The party has agreed to the price. Now the due diligence process, where are we? We have an environmental report that will be available before town meeting. It's not in written form yet. Everybody who signs up today will get a copy, but our environmental consultant is authorized following statement. Our report will indicate that we did not discover any recognized environmental concerns related to these properties. The only recommendation that will be in the report is if the private well on the rear property is to be used for drinking water, it should be tested first. Tomorrow, our wetland scientist that works with the town will be out here to flag all of the wetlands and to put pretty much a final stamp on what the building envelopes are available on the 2 lots. He's going to use a method called GPS, so he's going to come out and flag, and then as he sets each flag, he's going to use his GPS device to record the GPS location of the flag. So we get a little weather, we have some trees blow down, we lose the flag, we'll come back and restore it. It'll be useful forever. Yeah, Brandon Fanoff is no pushover when it comes to this, so we're kind of glad that he's able to do this at a price that we can afford. The last piece is Weston and Sampson's going to send out early next week, or probably early next week, a crew to dig test pits. So we'll have a rough idea where the building envelopes could be located, and we'll dig a couple of holes in each, and those reports will be available as well. We also do have the septic designs for the 2 properties on file at Town Hall, so there were soil samples taken then, and groundwater was located. It was 8 feet down on this parcel. I'm not sure about the other one. So that's where we stand with all of the due diligence. We would not buy this property or even consider buying it if we didn't complete that due diligence and it wasn't satisfactory to the folks in the town. To the extent that the motion at town meeting says that, that's fine. It's just a prudent buyer standard. We simply wouldn't buy something without knowing that we could use it for the intended use. Having said that, we're looking at a building that's going to be about 3/4 of an acre under roof or less on about 14.5 or 14.7 acres of land total. So it would be very unusual geometry where you can't fit a building of that size on a property this big. Having said that, this is kind of a, I'll finish with this, a unique Douglas experience. The back house is actually really nice. I think anybody would want to live there because it is super quiet location. There can't be much light pollution. So it's just you and the stars back there. Before he passed away, Mr. Ticino fixed up that house and it looks really nice. It's actually a really great place. And one of the things we wanted to do here with the price of the property is the price includes a credit to the appraisal for that house. Now you couldn't build that house today for what we took the credit for. So we took a credit for $175,000. So in other words, property appraised at $700. We added $175 to that for the house. Frankly, the house could possibly eliminate, at least for a significant period of time, the need to build any office space on the main structure that we're contemplating. I would encourage everyone, this will be my last comment, to review the BFCC video when we walked through the old highway barn and the comments that were made. You know, folks, every time we buy a dump truck now, they're not $100,000. They're not. What's your price in the private sector?
For a 10-wheeler, $240,000.
That's exactly what we just paid for our newest truck, $240,000. So when you start storing this stuff outside or you're not taking good care of it, you are wasting taxpayer money. Every single day we have that backhoe or excavator or front end loader or any serious piece of equipment stored outside or stored in a building that isn't the best location. It is a waste of taxpayer money. Now what we're not going to do is we're not putting that stuff in heated space, right? We're talking about a garage, a glorified garage with a high ceiling and enough room for people to move around and get their work done. This stuff doesn't need to be pampered, it just needs to be away from the elements. And that is really all we're talking about doing, is either a metal or a pole-built barn and build it big enough with enough amenities around the outside so the crew can work and get them out of the situation they're in. Another thing we're contemplating very seriously is not moving the salt barn. Salt barns are expensive. Relocating it actually doubles the environmental impact of it. So it may move a couple hundred feet from where it is to be closer to the road, but why bring that up here and build brand new standards in a completely different environment close to water? That's completely unnecessary if it can still be on town property down by the road, and it can be a separate project that we would probably fund with free cash rather than borrowing. Any questions for me before we get started?
Yeah, I have a question. When you said they're going to come out and tag the wetlands, are they also going to tag the 200-foot distance from the streams?
Yeah, so
that will be tagged too.
That's exactly what he's going to do.
Because I noticed going across that there's water in there now, and we're in the middle of a drought, so that's definitely going to be a perennial stream.
Yeah.
Now the other one here, is that one a perennial stream too? Because there's
that
two
one
of them.
down there is a perennial stream.
Yeah.
That's Centerbrook. Riedell Brook.
No, that's
That's
Riedell.
Riedell.
That's Riedell. This is Center.
Yeah.
No,
It's not center
Well, whatever
either.
that one is over there,
it's not named.
it's an intermittent.
All right, so
stream.
one of the things we're going to
That's been
do,
determined
I'm going
by-
to interrupt everybody for a
Yeah.
second. One of Brandon's duties
Yeah.
is to determine the location of the streams,
Right.
not only on this property, but the abutter's property. I'm sure he's going to have to ask Ellie and Evan for permission to get
Yeah.
it. We believe that Riedell Brook runs in the end of the pond, the west end of the pond. And this little scratch that we're going to walk across right here is basically an overflow from the wetlands that on any given day from a winter melt or a heavy storm will run. But it's dry now, it's been dry for a long time. We can't say right now that it's intermittent because we're in a drought and we
Right.
can't make that declaration. But once we're out of the drought, we'll be seeking to make that declaration.
I looked at online to see what was what and
All
what
the stuff
connected.
online
There's
is
another
wrong.
pond that runs out of another pond,
Yeah.
actually.
But everything online
Yeah, on
is
our
pretty
website.
much wrong on our website. So if you look enough,
Yeah.
you'll see that every single map contradicts a different map. So one of Brandon's jobs is to come out here and tell us exactly where everything is. Because frankly, before this was built, this little shack behind us, this was nothing. They were-
1958, this was.
Hunters, I'm
undeveloped.
sure, and trappers may have had an interest in this area, but there really wasn't anything. There was trees.
Well, GIS does actually show the other corner.
Unfortunately,
That's not
these
our-
maps, the only map that matters is the United States Geological Survey map, the USGS map. And even then, they're not always
Yeah.
right. So what Brandon's going to do is he's going to flag all of the intermittent streams, the edge of the pond, everything, to determine what's what.
Because usually if they got a name on it, that they kind of assume that it's perennial, and then you gotta fight and say no.
If it has a
it's not.
name and a solid blue line, they assume that it's perennial.
Right.
I have a question. Now, there is a dam coming out of this pond, and there's only one way in and one way out of this property. I'm sure that dam was built 200 years ago. And yes, there was, past meetings say that the owner is going to inspect the dam. To me, that's kind of like a used car salesman saying, don't worry, our mechanic will inspect it for you. So I'm just, wondering.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think we have to do
I'm going
our
to
own
object to the image.
inspection.
I'm going to object wholeheartedly to that image. That is incorrect. If a dam passes a safety inspection, take it to the bank for 10
Yeah.
years. We're not used car salesmen, and we're not trying to flim-flam anybody into buying this.
Yeah.
If a dam inspection is done at the owner's expense, you can rely on it for 10 years. Secondly, if you own the property and you decide that you want to remove the dam, there's grant programs for that. You can get rid of it if it troubles you. I would encourage you not to, because the little pond here actually has some use for us.
And this is not our pond, actually.
Part
We
of it
own
would be.
half if we don't buy this property.
Yeah.
It would be up to the Chesbrough to decide if it needed to be drained also.
Yeah.
How many crossings are we gonna have here?
If you locate the building on this side,
Right.
one.
So, and how would be what would be the entrance?
Right, you just drove over.
Oh,
The
okay.
existing is.
Look at that, have a map. That's where the proposed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You probably didn't
So,
notice
and we are
it, but if,
standing-
as you came in, after you got past the no trespassing signs, on your left there was a little bit of a hole and kind of a tall embankment. That's the dam. It can't be much more than 30 feet wide, but it's tall. It's about 15 feet tall.
Okay. So we're
All right,
planning.
just so we
That's
can
where the
move this
house-
along, let's stay focused a little bit. I have all this information. I have a larger map. We're gonna get into that.
Okay.
But just so we can stay.
I actually have a
we don't
question.
have multiple
So you say you started with 5 different parcels. If you had started with a number of 875, which is expected to pay for this, would that have expanded what the different places in town you were looking at, or you only looked at what is actually available, period?
We didn't start with 875.
I understood. That's my question.
You mean a
his
private,
question
buying
is
for
different.
private?
His
Right,
question
fine.
is, if you had a budget, would you have thought about other properties? That's what I understood your question
Exactly.
to be.
Yep.
And
So we can't ask questions.
Yes.
we didn't
but just
take
move it
financial considerations into primary account. What we did is, with the public safety departments and the highway department, asked them where they needed to be and what kind of facility they needed. Their mobility around and inside the facility. The appraisal has been on the books for a long time. So if we had thought that the property's price was out of whack, this might have been a different process. But all the other properties that we looked at were already owned by the town. Would we have looked at other private properties? We didn't see any lots big enough in this part of town that would have sustained the construction of this building.
And this checks a lot of boxes.
Good. Just to add to that real quick, back in 21 when this risk came up,
Well, you're getting
we
information.
created a needs committee, that subcommittee that Matt referred to. And,
But
John Furno, John Furno and Adam at the time, Ken Vincent and Kelly and Nick and Travis, the 3 different departments, police, fire, and highway. I went over to each one of them and asked them, I said, where would your ideal location be in town? Right? Because I had thoughts, but it doesn't matter. They're the ones that use the space. They all said the center of town, and I asked, so where's the center of town? This is it, right? So in order for them to be, logistically, to be able to get around the town, they need to be up this end, right? So then we So then we had 5 meetings. It went through very quickly. They had no time to really add to it. It was just, I pushed them to give us real good, honest, clean answers to it. And they went out 30 years out of what their needs are going to be, potential expansion when the population increases, what they currently need now for office space, storage, interior, inside, outside, conditioned, unconditioned. We went through the whole thing. We have a complete study done on that. Fast forward to this thing, we gave Weston and Sampson, we gave them the current site, we gave them the site behind the VFW, we gave them the mobile pipeline, and had them look at those 3. And I'm going to hand that out with, I printed out the first 4 pages, which has the general site condition comments. The full report is what I said I would email. I have a copy of it over there, but it's 19 pages each, and I didn't want to print out all those papers in case people didn't want them. Ultimately, those 3 other pieces didn't work for what we needed for different reasons. The buff property that Matt referred to behind the VFW, not only is it the water crossing in the front, the well off Glen Street is in the back, and we have a 400-foot radius around that. So there's a lot of challenges to that lot that it just won't work. You'd also go in between 2 residential structures. If you came off of U Street, that access point, and as soon as you come off the street, it goes down 20 feet and goes back up again. So there's a lot of challenges to that particular lot. Mobile pipeline has a permanent easement for a pipeline at some point that could go through the middle of it. That again goes a shared area access that goes behind residential properties. The current site, because of the easement, this is the benefiting property and that's the burden property. We can't eliminate that as a town because the benefiting property would be affected by it. And the only way you could do that is to purchase the benefiting property. So you're right back to where you were, right? So this really worked the best site for what the needs are for the town. That's how we get to where we are today. There's been a lot of effort and energy put into this through the environmental study that we did on it. They did a phase 1. There is nothing here. There's no history. This has always been residential since 1958. Prior to that, it was undeveloped land. There is no history that there would be any contamination here. That only had a wood stove in it. The pipe's still sticking there. The other house, which I've asked the property owner, we're welcome to go through it. If anybody wants to see it, we can go up and go through it so you can see what the space is. Very usable space. It's got a ground entrance, so if we needed ADA accessibility because it's office space, we have that. So with that, I'm going to hand out this stuff here. I also have a larger map of the 2 parcels so you can see it. It's on my tailgate. Again, I didn't make a dozen copies of it. It's in color so you can see it. On the back of this, when I hand this out to you, there's going to be 1 sheet. I'll hand it to Carol first. There's 1 sheet. I had taken this. This is that structure. So we're on this lot here. That's a 100 by 200 foot rectangle that I just plopped on there, just to see where you are.
Oh, thanks.
And we're more than, well, that's going to go to Carol. I'll give you a copy. Get that back.
Gee, that doesn't look like one at all.
Yep, that's what he said. All the maps are wrong.
Oh.
So I did that, and I stayed 200 feet away from the water, right? It's been determined that that body of water, we only need to be 100 feet away from it. If in fact that...
You gave me a lot, Mike.
You got 3 reports and a back page.
Oh, okay.
Right, those are the 3 properties. If that in fact is determined to be an intermitting stream, you can have if that in fact happens to be an intermitting stream, which I'm fairly confident that it is, we need to be 100 feet away from that.
Or is it 200? Oh, it's intermittent.
No, intermitting,
Okay.
200. We need to be 200 feet away
If it's
from
perennial, then you
that
have
one
200.
down there, right? But I stayed 200 with that rectangle that I just plopped on there, because I wanted to see myself if it fit, right? Well, Weston and Sam, there's too many lines and stuff on there to try to get your head around it, so I simplified it for
Or
myself.
if,
Well, he
if you
did.
put the
Stop.
garage over here, you could still use that house as the office?
That's the plan. So now if you look at what I just handed you out, there's two lines that go through. One goes through one corner of the property, the rectangle,
Yeah.
and then the other one.
Yeah.
That is 511 and 521. That's feet above sea level. So there's only a 10-foot difference in elevation, very easy for construction. Right? Mobile pipeline has an elevation difference of 50 feet once you get in there. Then we had the challenges with the land behind the, what's that?
That's an extra, you gave me two.
You got 3 copies. You should have 3 addresses.
Okay, all right.
You have
Sorry.
3 addresses. The top one was 104 Main Street. The second one was 49 Main Street, 49 being the mobile pipeline,
Yep.
104 being, or maybe 49 is the VFW, 104 is the mobile pipeline, and then the third one was a combination of the existing site as well as this site.
Thank you. Sorry.
It's in one report.
Yep.
So there's a lot of information in that, in the 19 pages. Most of it is what the zoning requirements are, what the wetland requirements are, just by code. So if you notice, I pulled that off, this rectangle is pulled off the property line. As a municipality, if we need to get closer to the property line, we're exempt from zoning rules. Not from conservation, but from zoning. Does anybody have any questions on that stuff that I just floated out?
So only one more observation for everybody. It's kind of important. If you've ever looked at developing a large piece of land or farming a large piece of land, over your head, there are wires that are already here. They're kind of out of order. It's not a typical setup. So the top line is a phone line, a copper landline. The second line down is your live electricity feed that goes all the way back to the house in the back. And this bottom one is your internet cable connection. So if, running electricity even above ground, this far off the road and all the way back here would be a pretty significant expense.
Now what about, that's not 3-phase though, coming across here, is it?
It's not 3-phase, and so I think we could go up to 400 in the building before we would think about going to 3-phase.
Yeah,
But 3-phase is on Riedell.
yeah.
I have another question. The map Mike just handed out, it shows that we would not own the dam. It shows it feet away. See how it's all yellow?
It's 2 lots, Linda.
I know, but he's got this highlighted. That's the 2 lots. And the dam is back here, outside of our jurisdiction. Whereas,
No, I don't know
I
why
have-
that, no,
Yeah.
that dam is part of this property for sure.
okay, so this map is incorrect.
His map's incorrect, this one's not correct.
That's the,
No, that's my map.
That's her map, and this is his map.
there's no remainder up here. This goes all the way over there.
Now, we've done any, ideas of what it's gonna cost to make a good crossing over there?
Adam was looking into a phone.
Carol wants me to admit on camera that she was right, and I am going to admit that because whenever I argue with Carol, she's pretty much always right. And she said, "There's no way you're getting across that for what'd you say, less than 100,000."
I think now
Precast would be between 140 and 180.
Well, I just recently talked to somebody, and they just said they just crossed over one, and they had to use prevailing wage with 2 big things. It was 400,000.
Yeah, I don't think
And that
we'll
was
go
when
that
that was
far.
not precast.
Yeah.
And how about the
But
second
if you look at this
crossing?
one, you'll be surprised. It's there, but it's not that huge.
Well, the thing
We
is,
don't
though,
need to do the second one.
that,
And
if
it would
we-
hold big, heavy trucks full of sand and
you know what?
If the building's going here, there won't be any big heavy trucks. I'm just saying, that's the whole point.
that's a lot
My,
to do.
my concern is that we make sure we got this thing big enough so we can take a lot of water, because we don't want to end up with all of the equipment that we need to protect the town being flooded out like North Carolina, and you
this is
can't
too
get
small.
at it.
This
So
is
that's way too small.
But if the dam breaks, see, that's my big
Well, I don't think that dam holds much water anyway.
All right, what do you want to
enough
do?
to wash the road
Does
out.
anybody want to see that house up there?
Yes.
So Shirley, you can drive up there. You don't have to. It's quite a walk. Why don't you drive up?
Anybody want to ride? Shirley's driving. She's her Uber charge. is
You can
really
follow
light.
the,
It's like
parade.
$1.50.
I have an appointment at 1 o'clock.
Well, hurry up and get in the car, you're not gonna get there talking.
Hey, John.
This is perennial. It's still, we haven't had rain since August.
Yeah. That's got water in it, and now it's definitely running full time.
Having said that, vegetation.
Oh, what is that?
That's
Is that what it is?
wetland back here. This is Chesbro's land, so you gotta think, it's all, everything that goes on Chesbro's land affects everything.
Oh, you know, it looks like a zip line.
So this would be the employee disciplinary location.
I grew up in a place like that.
Joking.
Before, I have a question. So before it was purchased, would you do a Title V or?
Yeah, we'll go back into the records and do a Title V.
Okay.
It was built. There's the well.
Even though it could get to the water.
Yeah, it could.
Not if the well passes, why not?
I've never been in the house, so I'm kind of curious.
Are we allowed to go in?
Yes.
Okay. I think they did a Title V on the septic, right? But do you know where it is?
We will. We know where it is.
Is it gonna be where you're building the garage? No. Well, this way. Oh, look at it. This is no ground, this is these. Watch your step. Watch her when she comes in.
Got a fairly new heating system in there,
Oh, good.
new oil tank. I didn't expect this when we first looked at it.
Yeah.
I seen the pictures online, but it was actually better when I actually got to see it.
Yeah, I know what you're looking at. You're looking at taking a ride.
That little bicycle.
Yeah, but it's, I think it's much nicer up here.
So this curve is actually so pretty, you can see it. We could make that handicap accessible, yeah. Yeah, no, over here.
Oh, there is?
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Right here.
What? Oh, that's it. For the town garage office, instead of having to build office. You know how much those damn offices cost? That's unless they put the highway on. Well, this is, that's what I'm saying.
Now, I don't know about the finish work here. We might want to have to address this finish work, but.
Oh, there's no other space here.
Oh, of course, yeah, just like me.
There's a lot of space in here. Oh, look at it. That's for lunch.
So the highway guys seem to prefer Bisquick pancakes when they're plowing snow overnight, so we can sit right here, have your
This
pancake.
is like a good office. This is more square footage than Klein's got
Yeah.
for their office. Well, 2 stories. Yeah, but still, I mean, when you say how much space you need, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And, you know, what do we got, 6 employees, Klein's got about 30?
Well, our highway department should be at work.
Out on the road. Well, that's it. Leaving a lot of offices.
We still do have records, and we do have a clerk that works full-time in this department. And it's usually the department head and the clerk that are in the office. Everybody else is out
Yeah.
working all day.
Yeah.
But they come in for lunch. Now, snowstorm is completely different.
Well, you were looking, with the plan I saw, they were looking like 2,200 feet for the office, so,
Yeah.
No, I haven't put that up in years.
Is there like a crawl space upstairs or no?
It's gonna be. I don't know how you get up there.
Nice spot.
Walk-in closet. Not bad. It's like,
This works out good. They probably have their own meeting room, they have a break room. Still have offices in there.
Front upstairs, you'll see that if there's like a, even if it's a crawl space,
Well, this is this one, it wasn't in there when I came in last
gotta be able to get rid of the squirrels.
week. The boxes.
they can make the handicap accessible bathroom downstairs.
So they're currently installing this floor, because I was in here a week ago and it wasn't down.
Oh, they're still working on it.
Well, I was gonna say, is this
No, they
your
did.
work? Is it, would you do this?
Wanna talk planning?
Well, you know,
Oh,
wouldn't you start,
Ron,
wouldn't you
sorry,
start,
wrong name.
wouldn't you start the run here and go over that way?
Yes, I would. Because I don't wanna
In
rip
the
it,
middle.
but they're gonna put a transition system on.
Did you do this?
Is that Paul?
Yeah.
That's
Oh, you've seen everything?
Just
You've seen everything?
He's already building something. You know, can't take him anywhere.
So, office is here. Where's the station?
The bar, the
Right
barn.
on the property you drove over from.
When we were looking at the other.
Oh, so just after the.
The other map,
Showed it?
so when Weston and Sampson did a conceptual placement of the building,
Yeah,
they conceptually placed it out back here.
okay.
And thinking that we would demolish this building.
Okay,
But that would be an incredible waste if you ask me.
Yeah.
I don't know why would
I agree.
anyone would do that.
yeah.
So the new highway barn, that would also need a septic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just looking for usable space. Is this really only 5 acres of usable space, or is it gonna be more like 10?
What you have is 4 or 5 acres on each parcel.
But a lot of them are underwater, or river crossings, or,
No, you have 4 or 5 acres on each parcel that's usable, right? Over where
I don't know
over-
that.
Okay.
You know, I'm
I'm
just,
trying to tell you the research that I did,
Yeah.
that, I'm guessing there's about 4 acres over where we just were, where that building's going,
okay.
that were outside of all the area. And there's probably about 4 acres over here as well.
I guess you'll know better once he does that.
Yeah, once they do all the study.
Yeah,
right?
that's
And that's the whole purpose of, having independent people as conservation agent and
Yep.
Weston and Sampson to give us facts versus opinion.
Oh, the new plan shows the highway line, the one you gave us.
He just did that conceptually.
I
yeah.
just put that on there, that's a 100 by
Okay.
200 foot rectangle on that lot, and look how much space is left. And I'm over 200 feet away from all the water, and I only have to be 100.
No, that's the brook. That's the intermittent stream that goes, you're cutting right through it.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
The one
Again,
that
that's why
actually
we
has
hired all
water.
these other people, so then you and I don't have a difference of opinion.
I'm just looking for the usable space out of the 14 acres
Yep.
for 800,000.
We're gonna have this information defined prior to town meeting to confirm all our opinions on this. Wow, so,
No, so, building and facilities usually makes a recommendation?
for the designer,
No,
alright,
I looked in the minutes and we did not recommend to the select.
and that's what I'm getting at.
okay.
Okay, so our meeting is not until, I think it's the day after the town meeting.
Correct.
So,
Yeah, so we can't stand up at town meeting.
But surely, don't we?
So
We have
as-
a forum right now, don't we?
We do.
no, because we haven't
You didn't post that.
It's not an agenda, it's not an agenda item, so
okay.
you can't realistically discuss it.
Yeah.
What you could do is if you felt compelled, have a meeting prior to the town meeting, so
Yes.
then you could endorse the project if that's what you chose to do.
Exactly. Okay. We needed some guidance.
Yes, yep.
And Matt, you agree?
And I think one of the things that we did discuss was that all that we're voting for now at the town
Is the
meeting
land.
is the right to be able to do it, but they're not gonna hand the money over
Right.
until they're sure that we can build what we want here. So
So
there's the difference.
that's why we needed all the information.
In today's light, appears to be our best option. But prior to executing your closing,
Right.
there's other information that has to be compiled and confirmed. And just like with any other purchase. It's not like we're gonna go to town meeting and then he's gonna wake up in the morning and say, yeah, here you go. It's not gonna work that way.
Understand.
There's a lot of things that have to get into place. It was quite the process just to get to today. But everything is moving as quickly as possible to have things properly documented and identified. That's why we had, the very first thing, had a phase one done. Because if there was any issue or any history with this property, we just walk down the driveway and forget about it, right? So we cleared that hurdle. So now the second hurdle is gonna be Brandon Fanoff, our conservation agent, to come out and identify what these streams are and what our area of use is. And then Weston and Sampson comes in after that, and we'll be doing the deep hole, the sample test pits around to see if there's anything buried, see if there's, what the soil conditions are. That has to be done through Weston, well, it should be done through Weston and Sampson, because they'll identify those areas on a map, right? If we do it ahead of time, we could have the backhoe come up and dig a hole, but it's a waste of time because it's not identified and documented as the way we did it.
Now, do we know exactly where the septic system is on this property?
Septic system is on that side, the well is over here.
Okay.
Yep.
The other thing I would probably should say for the record is that the conversation was correct. The authorization to the select board is only that.
That's right.
So eminent domain or the taking process is more complex than a purchase. Because then the select board would have to vote to issue a notice of taking. And then there would be further process beyond that, filing in the registry of deeds. So there are multiple way stations at which, if the due diligence reveals this is not a good property for us, that the machinery would stop. But like every public process, we can't finish it until we get started. And so, you know, we feel like we've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and it's
3 years, actually.
3 years. I feel like it's been 2, just like once the feasibility study was kind of done. It's been a very wide open process. Not everybody engages until the decision point, and that is a choice that each individual voter makes. But in terms of the transparency, have we documented everything? Did we get videos? Did we have meetings? All of that stuff has been done. It's almost like it's taken so long that people have lost interest. Like if we had done it faster, there'd be more engagement. But just the nature of having all of these vendors come out, do all this analysis, looking at the land ourselves, it just took time.
I have a question, but this parcel wasn't really looked at, so back in our BFCC minutes, until this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have another question about the conservation agent that's going to be looking at this. Is he going to show where the floodplains are, both of the streams?
So we have the floodplain map. So we do have the USGS floodplain map, the official FEMA map. So you're going to take your 100 feet from the edge of the floodplain, not the edge of the water. Your floodplain, I'm pointing to wherever the pond is.
Yeah.
The floodplain is actually a couple of feet off the edge of the water. There's a fairly significant grade there.
I'm talking about the streams, not the pond. The floodplains for the...
Yeah, you're
stream.
basically in a chasm. So there is no extensive floodplain around the streams.
So to
Floodplain map says what it
answer your
says.
question, it's all gonna be documented, that's why we would be.
I just want to make sure it's looked at by us.
No, it's
Yeah.
definitely gonna be looked at, as the town administrator had pointed out at the very beginning, the conservation agent is no pushover. He's pretty aggressive, and he makes sure that things are done properly, right?
But
And
if you don't ask them to look at something, is my point.
So we want to look at everything, but the thing is, that's the rule he has to follow. He has to show where the edge of the floodplain is.
What's good with the plan, not what's bad.
So if I can just say it in a different way.
Yeah,
We are not walking in this with our eyes closed. We're asking each and every single question, and we're taking worst case scenario and checking the boxes as we go down, right? We got rid of the environmental stuff. The next thing is our wetlands. That's gonna happen. He's gonna be out here tomorrow. He's gonna actually generate a map for us, and then we'll be able to clearly see what we have for space. That information is also going to be shared with Weston and Sampson, so they can put it on their maps, if in fact we feel comfortable to do that. Right? We're not going to have to pay them to come out on a piece of land that's not usable for our needs. So we're putting a lot of, everybody's anxious about this project, and so are we. We being the town government, right? The town administrator, the board of selectmen, we're all anxious about to make sure we're doing the right thing, right? You can ask the Chief Furno. I was pretty aggressive during our meeting that we had to get everybody's needs. I jumped on Adam at the very first meeting. He didn't follow what I wanted to do. I wasn't trying to be difficult, but had to stay focused and make sure we did everything to cover all our bases, right? The worst thing we can do is purchase a piece of property that we can't expand on in 5 or 10 years.
that's my word too.
Right, no, but this is all the thought process that we went through. And as the town administrator pointed out, because so much time has gone by, we're living this thing, so it's buried in our heads, but people forget about those other meetings that we had, but those were all addressed. We started from the top of the pile and worked our way down. We didn't just go for the easy things. Anything that's gonna stop us from using any piece of property, whether it's this or anything else, we address those concerns at the beginning.
So I have a question, Matt. You said this property was unique because it's close to the highway bond. It's access to three-phase power, but so are many other acres around here that are open. I mean, we haven't approached any other parties, private parties, you know, to purchase.
Look, if you can identify them with specificity rather than theoretically, all ears. But
Yeah.
you've got to think about where everything is. It doesn't look apparent from the side of the road, but Centerville Brook is going to be bisecting an awful lot of those obviously available properties. They're not.
No, I'm not talking about this immediately part,
Right,
like
but
even Glen Street.
By
that's
process
one
of
property.
elimination, but Glen Street
Yeah.
is within the 400-foot radius of our drinking well. And we may want to put another one there. So that it's not a
I'm not talking
binary
about that
process
property.
if then.
I'm talking about
There's
private.
no, let me finish my sentences,
Okay.
please. Each piece of property represents a system. There are many considerations, not just whether or not it's big enough. Is it big enough? Is it located in the right place? How much will it cost us to bring utilities? All of those things have to fit together. So, how long of a driveway do you want to build? How far do you want to run electricity?
Yeah.
When you're standing in a building that has electricity and you're going to build a building closer to the street than this. So there's a whole bunch of things that came into place for this. Well, one last thing I want to say for the record is, and John knows this, I have a responsibility to the employees of this town to pay attention to their health considerations. So if you have any detection of sense of urgency on my part to get this issue resolved, it's because I owe it to, at this point, a lot of our older generation is retired out of the department and we've got a bunch of young folks in there, is to make sure they're working in a healthy and safe environment and taking good care of the equipment that you buy. Most, if not all, I think, of our new highway workers are Douglas residents.
Yes.
These are your neighbors, kids that your grandkids or kids have grown up with. We're not going to invite them to work in a building that blew the doors off the air quality test. It's totally irresponsible to send people into that environment. As taxpayers, you're paid for all of those trailers on a monthly basis. That's an ongoing operational expense of the town. We would eliminate that sooner rather than later if we made a place for people to work that's safe.
I'm just looking at the taxpayers'
Yeah, I'm
dollars.
giving you all the considerations. I'm not arguing, I'm not trying to argue, I don't want to come across that way. But there are many, many facets to this problem. I'll make sure everybody knows what they are before they put them on.
I'm just gonna touch on Glen Street real quick. If we were, I don't even know, have no idea what property, but I'm just thinking about access to Glen Street. Come out of Glen Street and try to take a left or a right? And think about the amount of traffic that comes out of the highway bond. That's a very dangerous portion of town, especially with the truck that's geared low and trying to get out. I did it the other day in a truck that I have, and it was quite interesting. But you either come out Glen Street, or you go around and come out Southeast Main, which is even worse than Glen Street. Logistically, for them to get out into traffic, this makes a lot of sense for them to get out there. We'll also have, there's a 40-foot right-of-way that goes out to, that's already there, a little driveway that goes out behind the blue buildings, and it comes out onto Riedell. Right? So there's actually, once you go over the crossing, there's another driveway that goes out, and there's a pile of dirt down by Riedell. It's not ideal, but for coming back, if they're coming up Riedell from plowing, they could take a right and come right back into this instead of going out to Main Street. So you also have to think about the flow of traffic, as well as all the other concerns that we have with this. I was just trying to help you put your head around why.
And those
we
are
would
right of
consider
ways for
Excuse
other,
me?
those are right of ways for other people to use also, correct? Those two accesses, right out and
No.
So
The
that
one that
doesn't
I'm
matter.
referring to, is unique to this piece of property.
Can we take a walk over there and see that?
Yeah, I'll show you on the way
Walk goes up to
out.
Riedell?
I'll show you where it is.
That can be used as a secondary emergency access in case the primary gets
Yeah.
blocked.
Yeah.
In case the primary gets what?
In case the primary gets blocked with a truck on fire or
Oh.
whatever.
I gotta get going.
Thank you.
See you. See you now.
See ya.
Thank you.
So so when you get to the one way in, one way out pinch point, it's at the crossing.
The one way in and one way out is the river flows through it. And if that dam bursts, we don't have a way in or out according to both plans. So that's,
If that, I don't know if you've walked over to that body of water where the dam is. If you haven't, you should. Because look at it, it's basically a gully. And that pipe that's very deep, that leads right up to the gully to where the dam is. So if the dam was ever to let go,
Yeah.
it's going right down that gully. Riedell Road's gonna be the problem. It's not gonna be up here. Look where we are standing now, look how low the water is. That water empties out, it's not coming up here. It's not gonna block that road either.
okay.
I forgot to bring my breadcrumbs. I'm told there are fish in the city.
But with that, does anybody else have any more questions for what we have here? I'm gonna, go ahead, Bob.
To expand on what you were saying and to address Linda's concerns with buffers, Brandon comes out and marks the wetlands. He does not establish the 100, 200-foot buffers. That's what the engineer does. He takes his plots.
He's gonna put that on a map.
Let's not
for us.
He's gonna review it. But the engineer is the one that establishes the 100 and 200 foot, 200-year floodplains.
With the measurements.
That's
and
not
survey.
Brandon. Brandon reviews all this.
I think you got
In reverse.
in reverse, because Brandon would confirm what the engineer says, but if Brandon is the conservation agent, and he's the one that's gonna make the recommendation to the Conservation Commission, not the engineer. Okay?
You have to be a certified wetlands, you have to be a certified wetland scientist to flag a wetland.
Correct,
Brandon is a certified wetlands,
correct.
so I don't know what the issue is with the process here. Whether Brandon flags it or the engineers flag it, he's flagging it with GPS coordinates, the engineers will draw that into the drawings.
But you're
That's what I'm
asking
saying.
about flood.
That's what I'm saying.
floodplain.
Right, but-
He's gonna identify where our 100-foot buffer is, that's what we've asked him to do.
right, but you also said he was gonna determine, the distance from perennial stream. That's what.
Yeah, that's our buffer area, he's gonna identify whether
He's
it's,
going to do two things.
Yes.
He's going to confirm
Right.
what is intermittent and perennial,
Okay,
and
yep,
then ascertain the distances.
okay, yeah,
Now, will they be final engineered? No. The
Yeah.
engineer will do the final
right,
survey of
right,
that.
right, right.
But where he puts his flags is where the engineers are gonna measure from.
Right. So I'm more concerned about the 200-foot buffer for perennial stream than I am the wetlands. You know, the wetland
Right.
plant identification.
Right.
Because that can extend way beyond where the wetland is.
Yes.
So that, and then, you know, if you can't touch it, what good is it? But that's the thing I'm more concerned about, is that.
Yeah, again, getting back to.
200-foot thing. Then the other thing I'm concerned about is that we make sure we have big enough pipes going across that thing, so that if we ever get one of these North Carolina floods, if we don't have all of the equipment we need where we can't get at it, you know, that's all. So you need to have a big crossing so it can take a lot of water if it ever has to.
Correct.
'Cause I can
I
remember-
believe we're all on the same page on all our comments, with each saying it a little differently. But I'm gonna just go back to what I said a few minutes ago about we eliminated our concerns for the environmental, and now we're gonna eliminate or confirm any concerns we have with the conservation. Right? And we get past those check boxes, we keep going down the road. If at any point, if the conservation agent comes back and says, no, you only got 50 feet to work with, all bets are off, we're done, right? So we're spending minimal amount of money right now to get these facts confirmed, positive and negative. But the due diligence is there to make sure that we're checking all the boxes.
When did you say he's coming out? Are you
Tomorrow.
waiting tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were gonna wait till after.
No, we need this before town meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yes,
I
John?
don't know, Mr. Chairman.
You know what I'm
No, it's just-
Okay, so just a couple of things from my point of view,
That's for Shirley's meeting.
Shirley.
She has a quorum.
if I may, Shirley.
Sure.
Couple of things, this project is near and dear to my heart for my own reasons, but we gotta get them kids at Adam out of that building, okay? For me personally, this is a perfect location if the parameters work, because we have town land out front on both sides, we have a right-of-way down there, so if we can make this particular parcel work, I think it would be great, just my opinion, that's all. Okay?
And just in case you have any concerns about Brandon, my family and I have been dealing with Brandon on parcels that I own in both Douglas and Sutton. And he is very good.
I'll second that. I think so too.
Thank you for the vote of confidence for Brandon. I'm sure he appreciates it.
I adore him, I'll say that. He's the best.
He likes his
Don't tell
props.
his
He
wife.
likes his props, he's getting his props.
And then, so with the statement that you just made, that's the point, is the town administrator is assembling a very good team of people. He's not just haphazardly going about it. He's very adamant about making sure everything is correct and done properly, right? His name's on it as well as my name and anybody else that's involved in it. Fire Chief John Colonel just spoke on it. It's a very important project for the town, and we need to do it the correct way. So this is a very healthy discussion that we have, because it's better to have in this environment, instead of trying to referee it at a town meeting and nobody's even talked about any of this stuff, right? There'll be questions that come out, but hopefully we've addressed some of the major concerns that are out there, and people pay attention to this little video in the meantime.
I have another question for town meeting. Will there be a plan to be televised at town meeting to show what we're buying? It doesn't have to show where the proposed barn is.
Oh, the plot of land,
Just
yes.
assume.
Yep, I have a blown up copy that's on the tailgate of my truck, that when we go back down there, I'll show you what it is.
And that shows the streams and the pond and.
Yep, and,
So if I have my way, I'll have these maps out on an easel or a large board at the entrance town meeting with a sign, and somebody from the staff will be there, whether it's Adam or me or someone else, to interact with people who have questions.
But I think it needs to be viewable by
No, it's gonna be
sitting in the
yeah.
audience.
I'm a plotter.
yep,
And then during the actual discussion, the moderator will have the map that he can put up on the screen.
yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know that I've asked a lot of questions, and I'm not against the site. I just wanted to make sure we can do what we want to do
Yeah.
with it. I just want to make sure we didn't buy something, all of a sudden, we go to do it, find out we can't, that's all.
No.
If we can do it, it's good. If we can't, well, then we don't wanna put out the money, so.
Yeah.
Well, that's what our system exists for, is right? To air out all the issues
Right.
where everybody can hear the answer. That's what-
And as you and I know, because of
Yeah.
what we do for a living,
Yeah,
this is all part of the fun.
Oh, yeah.
You go through all this.
fun?
That's what I call it, it kind of diffuses the stress, right? But it's all part of the process
Right.
to make sure that it's something that's viable.
Right.
And that's the goal here, that's why we've assembled this little meeting today to try to address some of the concerns.
Now, were we planning on meeting back at the town hall, or?
That's what it said.
Well, it was only put on there just in case, but
I
that's
think
up
I've
to
got my
the
questions answered.
chairperson if
I'm
you
sorry.
don't.
I've gotten my questions answered, I don't know about you.
I'm just gonna ask, Madam Chair, I need to be excused because I have a meeting at town hall. in
And
10
I do
minutes.
too, at 1:00, not at town hall, but in town.
Yep.
Excellent.
So, I
Thank you, ma'am.
believe
Thank you, guys.
everybody on my committee, except 2, 3, they
got it.
left already.
You got a couple behind you.
One, two.
I agree that.
You got Bob and Fred there.
Oh, we have to make a motion to adjourn.
Really?
There you are. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn, and what time?
To adjourn.
Second.
At this time, I
12:07
now.
Carol
12:07.
Kowalski made the motion.
I second.
Linda Brown made the second.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So voted. Thank you,
So
everybody.
go back home.